So first things first, we always like to understand what our guest's first computer was.
Yeah, well, that goes way back to what was called the Commodore VC20,
Right.
which was having this massive storage of 3.5 kilobyte of RAM. and and once you completed your coding of your basic program and you switched it off, it was all gone. And then
Right.
and you kind of you have to redo it. That's how I got started, and eventually, I think the next iteration was an Atari 1040 ST at the time,
Yeah.
which was in particular, I think it was the first computer who had what was called at the time a MIDI interface, which was basically this digital interface to control the synthesizer, right? And it's still a
Yeah.
standard
Yeah.
today. I mean, that's amazing. That standard still
Yeah.
exists today, and it's still the same physical plug. Right? It's kind of 50 years old almost, right? And it's still the thing. And then more or less through my then I think professional career, I got into the Windows Wintel kind of camp.
Yeah.
But then some years back, I made the switch to Mac, and I don't regret it.
I find it interesting because it's interesting that those were your first computers, and I'm a bit younger than you, and I was aware of those computers, and I was aware of sort of like either people in my family or like brothers of my friends or dads of my friends having them, and then I kind of got them, and my first computer was like a Commodore 64, but I was only like 7, and I just feel like it would have been for you, like getting that computer a bit older. It would have been interesting for me to have been like coding in BASIC when I was sort of like 14 or 15, like this new frontier of like using computers. I just felt like I missed that. Did you like did you enjoy that process, and how did you find it?
Yeah, I was just always curious about these things, right? I think that's what drove my interest, curiosity, how these things work and what can you do with them, and again, as I said, I had this connection between, again, let's say the music, my hobby, and computers, and how these things come together, right? And that
Yeah.
was again, I would actually, I mean, I was once reprogramming the sample database of this computers, or this keyboards, drum sounds, right? Where I was really kind of hacking the system and reprogrammed it, and because I wanted to have better sounds, right? So yeah, how crazy I would go.
And didn't you build your own tape recording facility to save programs on it as well?
Well, yeah, I actually did. Back then, there was no floppy disk, right? Or
Yeah.
not, at least not on those computers. Yeah, so you had to kind of, at some point, you get tired of retyping your program every time you switch on or switch off the computer and switch it on again, right? And then, yeah, I did this little data interface to talk to my basic tape recorder and barely record or save those programs then on music tapes.
Yeah, it's quite interesting as well, because Steve Wozniak I don't know if you've seen it. Steve Wozniak's just released something talking about similar things. How the right to repair movement is coming out, and he's saying like, unless people are able to repair things and play with these technologies, you're not going to get the next generation of really skilled engineers who want to break things and put it back together.
Right. Yeah, makes sense.
So, next question. What so far has been your favorite piece of software or app that you think has given you most value in your life?
Well, most recently, I think over the last maybe 2 years, because as I said, I've become a Mac user on any screen. Also obviously iPad. So at some point, I think I dropped my physical notebook, like note taking, right? And I'm
Yeah.
actually using, and that's probably my favorite one. Notability is one of these handwriting note taking apps on the iPad, and it's and it's on. You can read it on your iPhone. It's on your desktop, right? And it's just always in sync. So I just take my notes there, and then actually I find stuff again, because my problem always was that you take all these notes in your notebook, right? And my handwriting is really bad. And then you can't find anything anymore, right? And it's all indexed. And so that's probably my most favorite productivity, I think, app on any of these screens.
And now, because you don't lose any of it, you have to read through all your amazing ideas that you have when you've had a few drinks late at night. That's the big...
Exactly. Yeah.
So were you ever a gamer? Is there a game that you remember from when you were younger that really captured your imagination, or maybe you spent too much time playing?
Well, actually, I was never a gamer. Actually, that's
No.
the one thing I completely kind of, because I was if I had my free time, I was focused on my music, right?
Okay. Yeah,
That was my gaming. Yeah, and I mean, again, I never, even today, I don't. I mean, maybe I play a bit of Tetris, maybe.
Right.
But really not a gamer at all. Not at all.
That's fair enough. Fair enough. Are you using any specific music software at the moment? What's your
Steinberg Cubase.
Cubase still?
That's been on my Atari back then, right? And
that's been around forever.
And it's still on my Mac. I mean, there's a little also. I mean, in one of my previous roles, when I was actually the general manager of Pinnacle Systems, we actually acquired back then Steinberg.
Okay, nice.
Because we Pinnacle was about video and video editing and broadcasting, and we felt we needed this kind of music production tools to complement the offering, and we actually acquired Steinberg back then. Eventually, they got sold off again to Yamaha, the Japanese music instrument company, right? But yeah, so I had quite some insights there, and I just love their products, and I've been a loyal user.
That's great. The same software and the same port, still doing the same thing. You know, that's survived the generations more than any. If you had to spend 6 months abroad in another country that you've or city that you've not lived in so far, where do you think you'd like to go, and why?
South Africa.
South Africa, nice.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to South Africa?
And I mean, I had the pleasure, and I got lucky during one of my previous roles that I actually had to do some business down there, right? And I've been, I think, in 2012, 2013, I spent a lot of time recruiting customers and finding business partners, and Cape Town in particular, right? I mean, I just love the food, the ocean, the wine, the people there. We went on vacation. I think there's 2016. My wife and my youngest, they both enjoyed it very much. So yeah, that's one of my. I always describe it like it has the kind of environmental, close to the water wine thing like California does, right? Yeah. But it's much more affordable.
Yeah. I had an interesting experience with Cape Town. There was January 2019 and January 2020. I had 2 weddings that I had to attend, and they were both in Cape Town. So I did 2 January weddings 2 years in a row. So I think, I really think that's an excellent choice. And as for the reasons that you said, it's just an interesting, wonderfully rich, sort of beautiful environment. And it's strange that it's not more successful than it actually is right now as an economy and as a country.
Yeah, and I think there is mostly, I guess, political reasons for that, right? I think the last president, who I think now is in jail, right? Probably hasn't done the country a big favor. So, and too much corruption probably, and these kind of things. But yeah, otherwise, and I think most people have the wrong impression about South Africa. I mean, certainly, in Joburg, and it's more dangerous, right? But But with all the traveling I have ever done there, I've never experienced anything but friendly people. So.
And the good thing is, if you were there for 6 months, you'd probably sort all the problems out as well. So that'd be great.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. One thing we like to ask is, there's room 101, but on Concise Conversations, we have room 202, which is even worse than room 101. And we'd just like to ask you, if you could, is there a piece of technology out there that you would put into room 202?
Oh, well, maybe not technology, but I would put German bureaucracy in the room too, if I may say so. and for that sake, if technology, then the completely over-engineered, overpriced German Corona app.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's it pretty much. Yeah.
That's interesting to say, because I guess you tend to look at these things like contextually, and from the UK we just think, oh, I can't believe we spent so much money on our Corona app. No other country would be stupid enough to spend that much money. I bet the Germans didn't do that. And then you're probably thinking the same thing, and like, oh, I bet the Brits never wasted all that money. Yeah, all governments wasted all this money on all the different coronavirus apps, apparently.
I think in Germany we were just too concerned about data privacy, right?
Yeah.
And I think the conclusion is, and at least in my mind, right, it was not designed to protect people from Corona. It was designed to protect people from data piracy.
Yeah, it's like you're not going to get any spam emails, but you are going to get coronavirus. So,
right. Yeah.
And then this is the last question that we always ask our guests, and what we think is the most important thing to know about someone. What is your favorite keyboard shortcut?
Well, it's very simple. I think there's only two really. It's Control C and Control V.
Yes, I mean,
right. I mean,
yeah.
And actually, I'm not at all into keyboard shortcuts,
Oh.
and probably because I've never. I mean, I think if you're a gamer, you're much more.
Right.
I think into that, right? I'm. Yeah, Control C, Control V. That's probably the most used, and if you would analyze, I guess, my keystrokes, that's what's going to be the outcome. Cheers. Bye.